turning up, everybody. It's probably our biggest turn-up for Yastawa Connect, and obviously we've got our future associated with this year, which probably adds a little bit more interest. And I'd just like to thank, again, all the people that turned up in the working group. Some of this might be a little bit repetitive for them because, in fact, most of it's actually come out of the consultation with the working group to get where we got to. Okay, so I'll run through some of it reasonably quickly. All the detail is in the options paper. If you haven't got one of those, there are some available at the end that you can pick up from Anita down on the paper down there. And I'll give a brief summary of how we got to where we are, and we certainly have some questions near the end, and I'll also run through a little bit of our delivery and operational plan, because they're also on public exhibition. And I guess that's the key. This document is on public exhibition, and we're seeking feedback right up to the 27th of May, which again the working group will meet after that, after we collate all the responses, and they will make a recommendation to Council, and Council will consider that for us to put our submission in on the 30th of June, which is why we've got a tight timetable. And going back to Rowe's message, I guess the key is about fit for the future, and what is it? It's the second point there. It's about long-term financial sustainability for Council, and that's really being defined by the state government through T Corp and through their Fit for the Future program and document. So for Council to be doing Fit for the Future, they have to achieve a number of benchmarks that have been identified by T Corp and the New South Wales Government. The fundamental ratio, which I'll come to a little bit later, that must be addressed is the operating performance ratio. Looks a bit sick at the moment. That's where we're sitting, and we've been on the decline. The big jump was related to a revaluation, change in our value of depreciation, which is actually built in. We've done a lot of work. We've had consultants work with us. They actually presented in one of the working groups about making sure that our depreciation is realistic, because we have to actually fund depreciation, which is one thing councils haven't done traditionally over the years. Haven't funded depreciation, which is why we're all in that situation where we are at the moment, where we haven't been putting enough into the maintenance of our assets. So we're not alone. It's New South Wales Government across New South Wales basically not having enough income to maintain their assets, or doing the other thing, and when they've got income, building new assets, which is probably, it's always a politically nice thing to do, and most councils will get in and want to build new assets. Okay, why councils in this situation? And that's a pretty common scenario. Well, it is almost right across the councils. That represents our council situation, a line of best fit of what's been happening to us recently, and why. The widening gap, rate pegging, reduction in interest income from our investments, that's gone down dramatically. For anybody that's got money invested would notice that at the moment. Cost shifting, you're forever hearing the state, local government, New South Wales, talking about cost shifting from the state government. Continues to happen all the time. Financial assistance grants were capped by the federal government. I was actually talking to somebody from the office, federal government 2 days ago, and they said, well, at least people know where the financial assistance grants come from now, and most people actually thought they came from the state government, because they come through the state government, but they're actually federal. And I said, that's no reason to cap them. Didn't make any difference. It makes a lot of difference to council, all councils having those capped, because normally they'll go up by CPI. And our financial assistance grants are 2.8 million. So you cap that over 3 years, over a 10-year period, that's $1.3 million. So it just continues to climb. Once that money's gone out of the base, it's gone. Increase in cost of labour and materials. Our cost of labour, we don't have any control over. In terms of the award increases that are negotiated, for example, this year, 2.8%. Our rate peg is 2.3%. Next year it's 2.4%. And that has been the case over recent years, where the wage increase has been higher than the rate peg. You have construction costs that have been increasing ahead of inflation. And over the last 20 years, probably the average is about 25%. overall with the increase in terms of the cost of construction as against the CPI. So that's just some of the reasons why councils are in the situation they are. Okay, so what can we do? There's three alternatives here. We can increase productivity, efficiency, reduce expenditure or increase revenue. Some way or other, we've got to get our revenue or our expenses to equal revenue. It's the same as what the federal government's talking about at the moment, about trying to get back into a surplus. You can't keep operating in a deficit situation. We have, as a council, for the last few years, trying to provide, we have been providing the same level of service that we have over a number of years, but with the reducing or that widening gap to provide that continued service, then council has actually budgeted a deficit which, under anybody's terms, is not sustainable in the long term. So, increased efficiency, productivity, and I guess well, even recently we've heard a lot about that from the finance, Minister for Finance, federal, talking about efficiency dividends, which is basically staff cuts. You can get productivity savings, certainly in how we actually do our job. There's no doubt about that any job can probably be done more efficiently in some way, but won't necessarily translate into dollar savings. And if we talk about local government particularly, Chris at Rec Planning did a review of the planning area last year, and I think a lot of people now recognise that the DAs are processing quicker than they were. Our DA times are down, but there's no actual dollar savings. There's certainly a customer service benefit, and we're providing a better service in that particular area. And the same applies in terms of road grading. If we come up with a better system using better techniques or better machinery, there's no dollar savings, generally speaking, because what it'll mean, we'll just grade a little bit extra road. Same with mowing. We'll have a budget. There's always a demand to increase the mowing. If we can get some efficiencies, get a wider mower and get around more, we'll do more mowing. So, generally speaking, there's not those dollar savings. Having said that, I'll talk about that later, how we have anticipated building some savings into our models. Just touching on the subject, we often get criticised, local government often gets criticised for being inefficient, etc. Our role as management is to continually look at our processes, and I'm not saying we've got everything perfect all the time, but some of the things that we've looked at just recently in terms of savings has been how we go about our tenders, how we operate in the pool, the DA processing, which I spoke about a minute ago, fleet management, actually changing our turnover type of vehicles, and the turnover has resulted in some cost savings there. Sale yards operations, we changed the operations there, but also I think that came out, I'll go on to that a bit later, but it did come out of about the only service that the community group, working group decided we could reduce. Council's already made the decision, no more sales, to close it.